On Lutingshan's 28th birthday, someone had the nerve to gift him a woman right in front of me. That was the last straw. I ditched my usual sweet and quiet act, smashed a glass, trashed the whole party. Then I packed my bags and walked out. Everyone said the helpless Mrs. Lu wouldn't last 3 days on her own before crawling back. Lutingshan didn't even bat an eye. Where could an orphan go without the Lu family? But days turned into weeks. Some even thought I'd died out there. That's when Lutingshan finally called, only to find my number disconnected. Months later, at a famous artist's exhibition, a portrait caught Lutingshan's eye. He offered a fortune for it. The artist, Song Wenjing, just smiled apologetically. Sorry, it's my favorite painting of my wife. Not for sale. Flashback to that birthday party. I was all dolled up in my prettiest dress, arm in arm with Lutingshan, as we made our entrance. The second we hit the bottom of the stairs, he dropped my arm like a hot potato. Left me standing there alone. Everyone's eyes followed him. I might as well have been invisible. People started bringing him gifts. He barely acknowledged them. Then someone brought in a stunning woman. Suddenly, all eyes were on me. Pitying looks. Excitement for the drama. Sneers. I'd seen it all before in the past few years. Lutingshan's poker face cracked for a second. The woman was a dead ringer for his first love who'd passed away. Bringing me a woman right in front of my wife. Bold move, Lutingshan said with a smirk. The guy who brought her tried to smooth things over. Mrs. Lu is so understanding, I'm sure she won't mind. I wasn't understanding. I just didn't dare speak up. What could an orphan the Lu family raised do against their new leader? Lutingshan played with his wedding ring, grinning. Well, if Mrs. Lu's okay with it, then take her to. I'd heard enough. I marched over to them, took a good look at the woman's face. They really knew how to push Lutingshan's buttons. I was done. Done trying to be the perfect Mrs. Lu my grandmother wanted. I gave the champagne tower a little nudge. The crystal glasses came crashing down. Glass and champagne flew everywhere. Total chaos. Someone screamed, Mrs. Lu's lost it. I'd ruined Lutingshan's party. But he couldn't care less. The staff started ushering guests out and cleaning up the mess. That woman stayed put next to Lutingshan. Even her personality seemed to mirror his dead girlfriend's. Next to her, I really did look crazy. Lutingshan toyed with the woman's fingers, barely glancing at me. Why so angry? If you don't want to see her, I'll keep her somewhere else. Remember, I promised Grandma you'd always be Mrs. Lu. The woman chimed in, Mrs. Lu, why get upset? A man like Mr. Lu can't be expected to have just one woman. I only admire him. I won't threaten your position. I took off my ring, placed it on the table in front of Lutingshan. He raised an eyebrow. Here's your ring back, I said. Lutingshan picked it up, tossed it in the air. The diamond sparkled as it fell back into his hand. He threw it to the woman behind him. It's yours now. Mrs. Lu just tossed away $1 million ring like it was nothing. Lutingshan stood up with a cold laugh. He told the butler, get Mrs. Lu some etiquette lessons. I don't want to see this kind of embarrassing behavior again. He started to leave, then turned back. He threw his own ring on the ground. It rolled across the floor, stopping at my feet. Since you don't want the rings, might as well throw them all away. Lutingshan drove off with his new arm candy, the engine's roar cutting through the night. The butler sighed, Mrs. Lu, why provoke the master? You know he resents you. I picked up the ring at my feet and tossed it in the trash. Go on, Chen. I'm fine. Alone upstairs, I peeled off my designer gown. Slipped into something comfy. White. My color of new beginnings. I yanked open my closet, tossing my stuff into a suitcase. The his and hers sides were as divided as our marriage. Most couples worry about divorce papers. Us? Our only connection was a pair of rings. Now in the garbage. Who would have guessed that headline-making wedding didn't even come with a marriage certificate? Lutingshan's words from our wedding day still haunt me. My household registry can only have Wanwan's name. Susanyan, you shouldn't have married me. But I did. Married my teenage crush of 7 years, thinking I could win him over. Instead, I became the empty shell of Mrs. Lu everyone pitied. The mansion was dead silent as I dragged my suitcase out. Just like that rainy night Grandma brought me home. 13-year-old Lutingshan, cold eyes watching me from the stairs, then ducking into the kitchen, returning with a warm glass of milk. I booked a flight, 6 hours in the air, 3 more by car, back to my tiny hometown in the south. They say old folks want to die where they were born. Turns out us homeless souls crave our roots too, even if there's no family left. I rented a little courtyard house in town. The local dialect, once so familiar, now felt foreign on my tongue. Luckily, my neighbor was another out-of-towner. He rescued me at the market when I couldn't understand the vendor's accent. The next day, I made corn cakes to thank him. Turns out he's an artist, fresh out of college, here to find inspiration. Away from the drama of the big city, I suddenly remembered I'm only 25. All those years playing Mrs. Lu made me feel ancient. I filled my courtyard with roses, set up a little rocking chair. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Lu Tingshan's garden was all yellow roses, Wanwan's favorite. That fancy glass house with the grand piano. He designed it just for her. No one else allowed. Grandma wanted to rip out those roses once. Lu Tingshan lost it. If the roses go, I go. No one dared mention Wanwan or touch those flowers again. One afternoon, a knock at my door. Song Wenjing, my artist neighbor, grinning in a hoodie. Hey sis, I'm heading up the mountain to paint the sunrise. Wanna clear your head? I hesitated. He pushed, don't worry. I camp all the time. Super safe. His enthusiasm won me over. True to his word, Song Wenjing came prepared. 2 full sets of camping gear on his back, art supplies in hand. When I tried to help, he refused. I'm stronger than I look. We talked life on the hike up. My past, all Lu family drama. His, full of adventure and big dreams. Life's all about experiences, he said. My dreams to be a famous artist. Gotta chase it right, but don't tell anyone I snuck away from home. If I vanish one day, my folks probably dragged me back. I smiled. We were both runaways. Difference was, his family would come looking. We reached the peak at sunset. Golden light bathed everything, almost unreal. The town below looked so peaceful. Song Wenjing got busy setting up camp. I asked, the sunset's gorgeous. Why not paint that? I prefer sunrise, he said. Every day's a new start. Endless possibilities. His words hit me hard. Leaving Lu Tingshan was my bravest move in years. But I'd just been hiding in this little town. No plans. Was I gonna waste away here forever? I'm 25. My whole life's ahead of me. Song Wenjing finished the tent, handed me food and water. He flopped down next to me, hands behind his head, stargazing. Try it like this, he said. Whole different vibe. At the Lu house, it was all about etiquette. Mrs. Lu, that's not appropriate. Lying around watching stars. Never crossed my mind. Before I could overthink it, Song Wenjing yanked me down next to him. Come on. I let go of my inhibitions. The stars felt close enough to touch. We lay there chatting about everything and nothing. And I made a decision. Time to be brave. Running away solved nothing. I needed to make new friends, see the world. Until even running into him wouldn't faze me. I slept deeply that night. Simple tent, but I'd never felt so at peace. Come morning, I stumbled out to find Song Wenjing already at his easel, face intense with concentration. The sun rose, warming my skin. I gazed at the horizon. My new beginning. Sis, don't move. Song Wenjing's excited shout startled me. I froze, realizing I'd become his model. When he finished, I rubbed my stiff neck. Modeling's harder than it looks. Let me, he offered, strong hands working out the knots. I melted into the massage, eyes closed in bliss. On the way down, Song Wenjing bubbled with inspiration. I nodded along, pretending to understand his artistic jargon. Back home, I flipped on the TV. Lu Tingshan's face filled the screen. I almost changed the channel, then stopped myself. No more running. He looked the same as always. Cold. Dismissive. My wife's throwing a tantrum, he said of the divorce rumors. She'll be back once she's done playing around. Everyone thought I'd hit the jackpot. Orphan girl, raised by the Lu matriarch, married to the heir. But only I knew the truth. Invisible to everyone. Resented by my husband. Empty title, no roots. Every year when the yellow roses bloomed, Lu Tingshan filled the house with them. That glasshouse piano got dusted daily. Lin Wan was gone, but he made sure I never forgot her. Is your fight with Mrs. Lu about your new assistant? A reporter pressed. Lu Tingshan scowled, reaching for his missing ring. Right. Su Xinyan gave it back before she ran. The butler's panicked call echoed in his head. He'd come home to find her closet emptied. His suits hung alone. She was trying to force his hand. Get rid of the Lin Wan lookalike. So what if she cared? Grandma was gone. She had no one but him. As a kid, she'd hide when upset. Grandma would coddle her. He didn't have the patience. Where could an orphan go without the Lu family? He'd told the staff. Don't look for her. She'll crawl back when she's had enough. The TV host quickly switched from personal drama to business talk, seeing Lu Tingshan's impatience. His face relaxed as work came up. Clearly, Mrs. Lu was a headache he'd rather not think about. I poured myself some iced water and fired up my laptop. Time to dust off that resume. This sleepy town, great for retirees, not so much for job hunters. I'd have to venture out to find work. Evening rolled around and I stretched, ready to whip up dinner. As I set the table, I wondered if Song Wenjing next door had wrapped up his painting. Did he forget to eat when he got deep into his art, like Lu Tingxian did with work? Back in the day, when Grandma was still around, Lu Tingxian's stomach acted up more than once from skipping meals. I used to bring him food at the office whenever I could. At first, his secretary would keep me waiting for hours. Eventually, he got used to me interrupting his work for a quick bite. Sighing, I threw on a jacket and knocked on Song Wenjing's door. Just as I was about to give up, it swung open. His annoyed look melted into a grin when he saw me. "Sis, I was just painting you. Talk about perfect timing." Paint-splattered clothes, messy hair, a smudge on his cheek. He looked like a hot mess. But that smile, it lit up his whole face, making the paint splatters look almost artistic. "Hungry? Want to grab dinner at my place?" Song Wenjing's stomach growled on cue. "Starving. You're a lifesaver, sis. Let me just put my brushes down." Over the next few days, we fell into a routine. He'd mooch dinner off me, then help clean up and tend to my garden. If I had a little brother, I hoped he'd be just like Song Wenjing. I sent out some resumes and scored a few interviews. The morning I was set to leave, I went to say goodbye to Song Wenjing. Outside his place, several black cars were parked. Men in suits, bodyguards, maybe, stood nearby. As I approached, one moved to block me. "Don't touch her." Song Wenjing's voice rang out. Gone was his usual sunny demeanor, replaced by a cold intensity. He grabbed my hand and pulled me into his yard, slamming the door behind us. "Stay out," he ordered the men. Once we were alone, his smile returned. "Here for breakfast, sis." "Actually, I came to say goodbye." His voice shot up an octave. "Where are you going?" I filled him in on the job interviews. "This place is great, but remember what you said on the mountain. Every day's a new start, full of possibilities. I want that for myself. No regrets." "So, sis, have you let go of him?" I blinked, surprised. Song Wenjing winked. "Don't underestimate an artist's eye." Put on the spot, I felt a blush creep up. "I guess I have. Where's the new job?" "North City." I'd considered moving somewhere Lu Tingxian free, but North City was home. I grew up there, went to school there, had friends there. Why uproot my whole life for him? "I'll come with you," Song Wenjing declared. Perfect timing, with my family showing up here. And just like that, I found myself hitching a ride with Song Wenjing. The anxiety of returning to North City, potentially facing Lu Tingxian again, faded as he chattered about his grand plans. Life back in North City fell into place surprisingly smoothly. Nailed the interview, got the job offer. Found an apartment near work. Song Wenjing vanished for 2 days, then popped up as my new next-door neighbor. Again. I caught him directing movers as I took out the trash. "What are you doing here?" "Surprise." He grinned, taking the trash bag from me. "I missed your cooking. Time to mooch off my favorite neighbor again." His unexpected appearance was a welcome surprise. Having a familiar face nearby made this new place feel a bit safer. "I'll whip up something to celebrate your move-in," I offered. We settled on hot pot at home. As the spicy broth bubbled, Song Wenjing plopped some tripe into my bowl. One bite and I was chugging water, my tongue on fire. "Oh no, you can't handle spice. I thought you loved hot pot." "It's fine, just out of practice," I assured him. How long had it been since I'd had hot pot? I used to love it. Grandma would join me, sticking to the mild side while I went for the spicy kick. Once, when Lu Tingxian worked late, I suggested hot pot since the food I'd brought was cold. It was snowing outside, perfect hot pot weather. I thoughtfully ordered a split pot, spicy and mild. But Lu Tingxian frowned the whole time. On the drive home, he grumbled, "Let's not do that again. The smell clings to everything." I hadn't touched spicy hot pot since. Funny how your taste buds forget things. But soon enough, I was sweating happily, rediscovering my love for fiery flavors. After dinner, Song Wenjing cleaned up, aired out the place, and took out the trash. Such a gem. Life back in North City was calmer than expected. No media frenzy over the missing Mrs. Lu, no one from the Lu family came looking. I'd never been worth their attention anyway. The press was more interested in Lu Tingxian's ever-present assistant. I scrolled past paparazzi shots, feeling a bitter twist in my gut. Did Lu Tingxian really love Lin Wan that much? There he was, letting her fix his tie, carefully shielding her head as she got in the car, holding an umbrella over her in the rain, leaving himself exposed. Apparently, all it took was a familiar face to transfer his affection so completely. Lu Tingshan had always kept Lin Wan's details under wraps. No photos ever leaked. Everyone assumed I'd been totally frozen out by Lu Tingshan. If I were still at the Lu house, I'd probably be waiting up for a husband who never came home. Instead, I was buried in work proposals and meetings. Busy with, Song Wenjing, stop using me as your pillow. I shoved his head off my shoulder. He pushed my laptop away, pouting. You've got this handsome guy right here, and you're staring at some old dude. I couldn't help but laugh. Lu Tingshan, an old dude. If he could hear that. When I looked up, Song Wenjing's expression had turned serious. Is that him? The one who hurt you? Lu Tingshan from Lu Corp, right. I know him. I raised an eyebrow, surprised. I'd never seen Song Wenjing at the Lu house. When I was a kid, my mom made me call him uncle, he explained. I lost it, doubling over with laughter. He's only 4 years older than you. Some uncle. Song Wenjing pinched my cheek. He looked old for his age. Fair point. Lu Tingshan had always seemed mature beyond his years, handling company business from a young age. So you're the vanished Mrs. Lu. Song Wenjing's face was suddenly very close. I realized I'd somehow ended up with my head in his lap while laughing. I tried to sit up but he held me there, his gaze intense. Yeah, I admitted. Does that make me your secret boy toy? He joked, cracking himself up. I swatted at him. Don't be ridiculous. Besides, I left the Lu family. Gave back the ring and everything. Great. I'll call my lawyer. We'll have you divorced by tomorrow. No need. We never actually got a marriage certificate. I smiled bitterly. No certificate meant no divorce needed. That ring had been our only real connection. Maybe Mrs. Lu had been such a habit that even Lu Tingshan forgot we'd never made it official. Perfect, Song Wenjing grinned. How about getting a marriage certificate with me instead? I stared at the fresh marriage certificate in my hands, feeling a bit dazed. Never in a million years did I think my wedding photo would be with someone other than Lu Tingshan. Last night, after Song Wenjing's relentless persuasion, I agreed to this fake marriage to get his family off his back. I'll show this to my folks real quick, Song Wenjing said, snatching the certificate. Mom thinks I'm pulling her leg. This marriage felt so surreal. 3 years ago, I had a grand wedding without a certificate. All for show, a facade of happiness for others. Now I had the paper but no ceremony. Oddly enough, I felt at peace. No expectations meant no disappointments. Song Wenjing returned with good news. My parents greenlit my art exhibition. This collection's my best yet. A month later, his exhibition was in full swing. I worked late that day, rushing to the gallery around 8 p.m. As I arrived, I caught a glimpse of someone who looked eerily like Lu Tingshan. I shook it off, thinking my mind was playing tricks. Inside, the artwork felt familiar. A group of excited girls rushed past me, clutching catalogs. Hurry! I think Song Wenjing's up ahead. We can't miss getting his autograph. I heard this is his last exhibition. It's now or never. I followed their gaze, spotting Song Wenjing's tall frame in the crowd. He was patiently signing autographs. Last exhibition. I thought this was his first. Confused, I checked out his bio at the entrance. Turns out he was already a big deal national tours, pieces selling for crazy money. Suddenly, I felt out of place. This acclaimed artist seemed worlds apart from the goofy guy who'd curl up next to me on the couch. I snuck out, only to bump into Lu Tingshan outside, frowning into his phone. Guess I wasn't seeing things after all. Lu Tingshan kept dialing a number he'd never bothered with before. He knew he'd only hear that robotic, number disconnected message, but he couldn't stop trying. It hit him. Besides this useless number, he had no idea how to find her. That side profile he'd glimpsed at the exhibition nagged at him. An uneasy feeling gnawed at his gut. He used to count on Su Xinyan's lack of family ties. No relatives, barely any friends. He thought the Lu family was all she had. He always assumed that even if she died, it'd be under the Lu roof. When the butler first reported her number was dead, Lu Tingshan shrugged it off. Unless she's dead in a ditch somewhere, she'll crawl back eventually. The butler paled. You don't think something happened to her, do you? Lu Tingshan scoffed. No way. If anything had, the cops would have contacted him as her husband. But 6 months had passed. No sign of her. That painting today made his heart skip a beat. The woman looked just like Su Xinyan, but different somehow. Her eyes outshone the sunrise behind her. Radiant. Alive. That wasn't the Su Xinyan he knew. She was more like stagnant water. Push her and she'd barely make a ripple. When things got tough, she'd just hide away. He'd caught her crying by the greenhouse once. Like a spooked kitten, she bolted the second she heard him coming. It used to irritate him, how she'd put on airs in public but crumble the moment they got home. He wanted to buy that painting, hang it in her room. Maybe she'd learn by osmosis. But the artist, Song Wenjing, refused. Sorry, can't part with my favorite portrait of my wife. Lu Tingshan felt oddly relieved. It wasn't her after all. Still, leaving the gallery, he felt an urgent need to reach her. Surely she'd sulked long enough. After endless busy signals, he snapped at his bodyguard. Find my wife. Bring her back. Now. When the Lu family's muscle knocked on our door, Song Wenjing was setting the table. They barged in, but he blocked their path. Can I help you? Their eyes locked onto me, spatula in hand. Mrs. Lu, the boss wants you home. It had been so long since I'd heard that title. Felt like another lifetime. Watch your mouth, Song Wenjing growled. That's my wife you're talking to. He shoved them towards the door. One pulled out his phone. Boss, seems like she's married. Lu Tingshan arrived in record time, looking like thunder. His men parted and he tried to push past Song Wenjing. No luck. Move him, Lu Tingshan snarled. Song Wenjing stood his ground. Lu Tingshan barging into my home, trying to kidnap my wife. Not cool, man. Lu Tingshan finally sized him up. So that woman in your painting was my wife. You've got some explaining to do. Nothing to explain. We're legally married. She's my wife now. Lu Tingshan's cold laugh sent chills down my spine as our eyes met. Su Xinyan, getting bold, are we? Running off, marrying behind my back. Come home now, and we'll forget this ever happened. He reached out, expecting me to take his hand like always. This time, I didn't budge. Lu Tingshan, I gave you back the ring. We're done. Done? After everything my family's done for you. You think you can just walk away? Are you out of your mind? Lu Tingshan's eyes blazed. He shoved past Song Wenjing, grabbing my wrist so hard I thought it might snap. You're getting divorced right now. Isn't a real marriage certificate what you wanted? We'll get one as soon as you ditch him. Before I knew it, my palm connected with his cheek. The room went dead silent. Lu Tingshan looked shell-shocked. What's wrong with you? I shouted. I left the Lu family. I don't want that marriage certificate anymore. Go back to whoever you want. Why can't we both move on? Move on. You belong to the Lu family. We raised you. You'll die a Lu. He tried to carry me out, but Song Wenjing's security team blocked the elevator. Take her, and I'll have you arrested for kidnapping, Song Wenjing warned. You don't think I can protect my own wife? My head was spinning. This was beyond anything I'd imagined. I thought Lu Tingshan would be relieved, maybe even happy to be rid of me. What was this act for? Someone threw the first punch, and all hell broke loose. Song Wenjing and Lu Tingshan were at each other's throats. Somehow, Song Wenjing came out on top. His left cheek was bruising badly, though. Getting old, Lu, he taunted. Maybe leave the fistfights to the young guys, huh? I tugged his sleeve, worried about retaliation. Lu Tingshan looked a mess. He'd never been in a real fight before. Just take him home, I told the bodyguards. And don't come back. Back inside, Song Wenjing winced, holding his face. Babe, he hits hard. Am I still pretty? I dug out the first aid kit. Don't call me that. Let me patch you up. As I leaned in, he stole a kiss. Better than any medicine. You didn't mind me calling you my wife earlier. I shoved the antiseptic at him. I thought this was just a paper marriage. Your idea, remember? He grinned like the cat who got the cream. I just wanted to make it official before that Lu guy could snatch you back. You tricked me into marriage. Hey, I traded my cushy job for a shot at true love. If this backfires, I'm the one stuck working for Dad forever. Talk about a raw deal. It finally clicked why they'd called it his last exhibition. I poked his injured cheek. You idiot. Yeah, but I'm your idiot. Don't leave me, okay? At least I'll suffer happily. I nodded and he pushed his luck. So can I kiss you for real now? Before I could answer, his lips met mine. Things escalated quickly. Song Wenjing was like a kid in a candy store. When I tried to slow him down, I was already putty in his hands. Song Wenjing, wait. Don't worry, I'll be gentle. In my hazy state, I discovered firsthand just how fit he really was. We moved houses, Song Wenjing paranoid about Lu Tingshan showing up again. Things were quiet for a while, until he surprised me with a trip to a bridal shop. I've been planning this since the day we got our certificate, he admitted. When I painted you, I knew I had to make you the most beautiful bride. Song Wenjing threw himself into wedding prep. I just tagged along when his mom wanted my input. At the venue, we ran into Lu Tingshan in the garden courtyard. I tried to avoid him, but he spotted me first. Xinyan, please come home, he pleaded. I'll take care of you, just like Grandma wanted. The Lu house is where you grew up. How can you turn your back on our family? I pulled my hand from his grasp. In all those years with the Lus, you never treated me like family. I have a real family now. Please just let me go. Song Wenjing's parents adored me. When they learned I was an orphan, his mom broke down crying, hugging me tight. She swore she'd be the mother I never had. This was the family I'd always dreamed of, one where I truly belonged. The Lu house. My only real family there was Grandma. With her gone, there was nothing left to miss. I spotted Song Wenjing and ran to him, waving. He wrapped me in my coat, holding me close as he chatted with the hotel manager. Lu Tingshan stood frozen, watching us leave. I never looked back. Epilogue, Lu Tingshan's POV. I prided myself on being a shrewd judge of character in business. But I never truly understood the woman closest to me, Su Xinyan. I thought her lack of connections made her easy to control. One trip outside and suddenly she grew a backbone. When Grandma insisted we marry, I went through the motions. A big ceremony to keep the old lady happy, but no legal paperwork. I deliberately withheld that marriage certificate. Xinyan suffered in silence, never ratting me out to Grandma. I filled the house with yellow roses, Lin Wan's favorite. Watching the color drain from Xinyan's face, I finally understood what got under her skin. So when that Lin Wan lookalike showed up, I jumped at the chance. Xinyan's reaction was priceless. I never expected her to lose her cool, to chuck our wedding rings back at me. I always saw her as a runaway kid. I failed to notice she'd grown up when I wasn't looking. I wasn't her sole support anymore. She had a job, new friends, even a husband. When my men said she'd remarried, I nearly dropped my phone. Her talk of a clean break, of becoming strangers, it sent me over the edge. I lashed out. Somehow, that punk kid got the better of me. I remembered how much I hated him as a brat, calling me uncle when I was barely older. Now he was even worse, stealing my wife. But the concern in Xinyan's eyes when he got hurt. That stung. She only had eyes for him. All I got were walls. It hit me then I'd lost something precious, probably for good. Their wedding invitation felt like a slap in the face. Those beaming smiles mocked me. We'd had our own grand wedding once. But I couldn't be bothered to even take a photo with her. I pawned everything off on the staff, more guest than groom. She must have been so disappointed. All these years, I took her presence for granted. I assumed she'd always be there. Only now do I realize some people, once they're gone, are gone forever. She left the Lu family behind. And I'm the one stuck here, alone.